Welcome to another edition of Mini Math Lessons with Karen. Today's focus is on rotations in a coordinate plane. By this time, hopefully students already have an understanding of what rotations are, what they do, and we're going to just explore a little bit more in detail with what happens to rotations when you're in a coordinate plane. So it's about where are the coordinates, how can you determine how far something has rotated based on coordinates from the pre-image to the image. So if you haven't explored rotations already, there is a previous mini math lesson on rotations that maybe you'd want to do first. But once you get the URL to this one, and again, this is a free activity, simply type it into the browser. The link is provided in the description of the video, and the activity should be coming up. And once it's there, you can play, move, and do whatever you want in this activity. And this is true for anyone. If you want to save what you've done, make sure you have an account so that it will duplicate it into your own account, or any of those options. So here's the activity. So you'll notice down the left-hand side are a description of what's going on. So we have this pre-image that's in blue, and it's rotated image at the current angle of rotation, which is controlled by this slider here. And then there's some questions that are asked, and as students try to answer them, they're going to put their answers here. And so basically the idea is, what do you notice as you're rotating? What's happening to the coordinates? And you'll notice that the coordinates are listed here. So E and its corresponding coordinate in the image, so forth. So the first couple of questions are let's just look at the angles between the corresponding points. And so they're going to click on the boxes here and they can see this angle. So they'll note that that's a 45 degree and that's what our angle of rotation is. So one way to find the angle of rotation if you have two images is to simply connect the corresponding points to that point of rotation and measure that angle. That's another way. And you can see that. Let's actually make this be a bigger angle up here. So there's lots of playing around. Let's make it be like that. And so now if I look at the angles, it's a little easier to see just because it's a larger angle. But this angle, 111, matches my angle of rotation. And to get that angle, so if all I were given were these two shapes here, I can connect corresponding points to my angle of rotation, my point of rotation, and find the angle. So that's sort of what we're trying to help them discover there. And then after that, we ask them in the questions is move this to specific angles. So let's just go to 90 right now. And what do we notice about the points? So when we have a 90-degree rotation, and notice our rotations are always going counterclockwise here, that corresponding points have the same x value, at least here, and our y value has changed to its inverse. Over here, interestingly, my f and my f prime, because they're in different quadrants, they have kind of switched locations. So my y and my x have switched here, and over here they've not only switched, but one became the inverse. So just interesting patterns, and is there a way to kind of figure out what's happening? What if this shape were only because it's right now in two different quadrants, let's see if it matters if I change it to be in one, and now it is in one and it's switching. So just different things that they're going to be discovering about coordinates. And if you have specific angles, like what happens if I go 180 degrees, which would be completely opposite, I would anticipate that the coordinates would completely switch. And so let's see if that's true. And they switch to their inverses, right? So that's sort of an expected outcome. So interesting things that they can discover very quickly and easily. They can move those sliders, they can move the original shape, and that will impact the image, its rotated image, and they can play around with angles and all those types of things. So this is what we want them doing. We want them playing around, moving things around, exploring, seeing if they can come up with some patterns that make sense to them. And they're going to be writing their observations here and coming up with some patterns. And then down here, we have them try it out yourself. So based on what you think you figured out, where would this shape, and they can change this shape however they want, where would this shape end up if it were a 90-degree rotation? Can you find that shape? And so they can try to do it however they want, and then when they click the box, they can test to see if they did it right. So kind of just what'd you figure out, and now let's use what you figured out to come up with a test, kind of an assessment of your thinking. Did it work? So that's what this activity is about. Have fun with that, and I'll see you next time at Mini Math Lessons.